So if you clicked on this video, you probably know what the Apple Vision Pro is, right?
Introducing Apple Vision Pro.
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 Vision Pro.
Vision Pro.
Apple's Vision Pro.
Vision Pro.
The Apple Vision Pro.
The Vision Pro.
The Vision Pro.
Vision Pro.
So the Apple Vision Pro is right around the corner and it's gonna start shipping in a couple of days, and there's definitely a lot of excitement about it. Now, no pun intended, but Apple's Vision Pro is definitely Apple's vision for the future. However, there is a big problem, and it's not the eerie similarities to an episode of The Black Mirror, but it's something else. Let me explain. Now, if you take a look at all these YouTube videos, YouTube comment sections, Twitter threads, Reddit posts, you get the idea. There's a lot of confusion about not really who, but more rather what the Apple Vision Pro is for. Like normally it's more so who, like who's the iPad Pro for, who's the iPad Air for, or like who's the iPhone Pro for, or the base model iPhone. You get the idea, but in this case it's more so what, like what purpose does the Apple Vision Pro actually fill? I'm not gonna lie, right now, I mean obviously I don't have my hands on the Vision Pro yet, but it seems a lot like, you know, maybe a GoPro or a drone you buy for fun. Like you use it for a couple of weeks and it's all fun, it's great, there's a lot of quirks and features, but after a couple of weeks you just put it on your shelf and it's never to be seen again. Like that's not really something that you want to spend a hefty price of $3,500 on. And don't get me wrong, like the eye and hand tracking or even the high quality screens, like based off of the reviews so far, it seems something that's going to be out of this world, but at the same time it's still not something that really fills a purpose. And even Apple has put boatloads of money into ads for the Vision Pro, but at the same time, in my opinion, Apple doesn't even seem like they have a grasp on what this is actually for. If you look at their keynote, especially their WWDC from last year, they were showing a lot of weird examples. For example, like maybe you're watching a movie on an airplane, but there's only a 2-hour battery life on it. And like knowing how electronics work, it's not really gonna last 2 hours, probably less. And you're not gonna really be able to finish a movie in that amount of time. Or another example they gave was, well, a dad recording his kid's birthday party on the Apple Vision Pro, which when you think about it, it's not something that a kid really wants to see. Like it's more traumatizing than anything, like having your dad zooming in on you like this, and that's not really a real life case. And moreover, well, last time I checked, most dads, or most average dads at least, can't really afford a $3,500 USD headset. And moreover, well, yeah, some of you might say, well, you can buy an iPhone 15 Pro Max and do the same. Well, no average dad is going to be able to afford that. Like most average people are just going to take the base model and be fine with it. And I don't think that's really a possibility for most average people to actually invest in the Vision Pro. And then moreover, now we're actually really close to the launch and we haven't really heard much since, well, June of last year about what the Apple Vision Pro is for. It's more so, well, we got this little press release that said, remember that thing we like kind of gave a sneak peek for back in June? Yeah, here it is now. Like you can grab it on February 2. Good luck. Now, when you think about it, for what's supposed to be the next big Mac moment or even the next big iPhone moment, Apple's marketing team is acting very weird about this. So what I decided to do, I decided to go on a deep dive about what this is actually going to do and connect the dots myself and come up with my conclusions. So make sure to stick around till the end of the video for my conclusions, and while you're at it, maybe like and hit the subscribe if you like the video so far. So first of all, let's take a quick glance at what the Apple Vision Pro actually promises. Now, based off Apple's marketing and keynotes, they're promising a whole bunch of stuff. Like they're ranging from meditation to FaceTime calls to even recording special moments with your family, although, well, me and you both know that's not really gonna happen. So based off of my reading of this, there's really two main use cases that actually seem useful for at least the launch. And one of them is entertainment. Now for entertainment, basically watching TV shows and movies and all of that, it seems like something that's actually going to be pretty cool, because you could make basically a 110-inch TV screen or projector screen in front of you, and you could be watching movies on a huge screen, and it's going to be super immersive because thanks to the mini OLED screens, it is going to seem like you are sitting there in real life, even though it's just a bunch of screens in front of you. But I think that's going to be a really immersive and a jaw-dropping experience. And number two is going to be using it as a computer, or like doing basic computer tasks, or as Apple would like to call it,
Spatial computing.
And I think once again, as a computer, it's going to be super cool. Like you could use your MacBook and have extended screens in front of you. That is something that really opens up a lot of possibilities. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, like it seems like something a lot of people are going to use. However, it ends there. And for most people, it's easier to get a new TV, a big TV, or even like, you know, a monitor. But it's not really gonna justify a $3,500 USD purchase for most generally average people. Now, speaking of the price, which is $3,500 USD, let's take a quick look at that. Now, $3,500 already a lot. However, if you want, well, a usable amount of storage, or maybe you want to travel with it, or maybe you want extra battery since 2 hours definitely isn't enough for a lot of people, you're easily looking at taking out a second mortgage for this thing. Like, it is very expensive. Now, that being said, I guess my answer to that is Apple is not just the biggest tech company in the world, but the biggest company in the world in general. Like, they're valued a lot, and they definitely had to make something that's better than, well, I guess the Meta Quest 3 or the Meta Quest Pro, or even something like the HTC Vive. And that's because whatever Apple makes, that's gonna set the bar for the industry. So if they make something that's kind of mid and may miss the ball, that isn't gonna be good just for Apple, but maybe even the whole industry, the whole market. And that really puts off a lot of buyers from VR when they see that Apple made a subpar device. Like, think of it this way: when Apple made the Apple Watch, they completely set the bar for a lot of fitness trackers and also, I guess, the smartwatch market. That is something that completely revolutionized that market. In the same way, when they launched the iPad, they completely revolutionized the tablet market, and now every tablet's trying to somewhat on some level be like the iPad. And you get the idea. Like, there's a lot of examples like that, like AirPods. And the same way, the Vision Pro is definitely going to set the bar for the market, and they can't really miss the ball on this one. Now, in my opinion, there's another reason for the high price point, and it's that Apple doesn't really want to hit the whole tech consumer space with just this Apple headset all at once. Instead, in my understanding, they would rather gradually introduce it to the general public and gradually show that, well, this is the potential of VR and AR, and this is slowly gonna be what the future is gonna look like. So that's why, in my opinion, well, the Apple Vision Pro is definitely priced higher, since, once again, number one, they really have to set the bar, and number two, they really also don't want to hit the average consumer immediately, but they want to gradually introduce it. So another thing I want to talk about is developer apps on the Vision Pro. Now, Apple is claiming something like there's going to be about 1 million apps on launch. However, this is really just as Apple brags themselves. It's going to be, well, developers clicking a checkbox, and that's it. The iPad app is translated over to the Vision Pro. However, just translating an iPad app to Vision Pro isn't really gonna bring the same immersive experience that was advertised to the average consumer back in, well, WWDC. Instead, it's just gonna be, let me explain it this way. Imagine using YouTube on your laptop. Yeah, you're using it on Safari, you're using it on Chrome, it's pretty cool. But then you're on your iPhone or your iPad, and you don't use YouTube on Safari the same way you use it on, well, the Mac. Instead, you use it either on, well, the optimized app for iPhone or iPad in the App Store, or you use the optimized website for, well, I guess, built for iPhone. Now, imagine using your desktop YouTube on an iPhone. It doesn't really make sense. I mean, you can do it, but it's not exactly the same experience. And in the same way, you can use an iPad app on the Vision OS, but it's not really the same experience. So does that render Vision OS pretty much useless because it's all just iPad apps? Well, hopefully not really, because as far as I know, most developers are trying to like make their own optimized Vision OS apps, which does unlock the whole potential of Vision Pro. It shows like all those experiences and demos that you see in Apple's commercials and their marketing. And that is something that you are gonna have to wait for, because these apps, like making them is gonna take a while. Like, some developers did get their headsets in August and like they started making their apps, but a lot of developers are still gonna start maybe in February or March after they get their actual Vision Pro, and then that's probably gonna take maybe a few months, maybe a year, maybe even 2 years. And until then, Apple really doesn't want the average person to be disappointed with, well, a Vision Pro. Now, something interesting about that is that a lot of big developers like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, you got the idea, they all said that they don't really want to bring their apps, at least on launch, to Vision Pro. And in my opinion, this actually makes sense because there's no real incentive to add an app on a platform that only has 60 to 80,000 users on launch. Now, obviously, later down the road, maybe there's going to be more Apple Vision Pro users, but for now, there's only going to be about 60,000 users on launch. And they don't really want to translate over their app because I guess they have a lot of libraries, and that's also going to take a lot of work, more than just clicking a checkbox to translate over. But also the fact that, as I mentioned before, it's going to be a very average experience using an iPad app on Vision OS. And they obviously don't have their Vision OS apps prepared that actually unlock the full potential. And it does kind of feel weird using that, and people are going to be disappointed. All of that being said, it's definitely obvious that a lot of developers are going to take their time and later down the road actually come out with apps, well, more apps at least, that do match the full potential of Vision Pro, which we have seen in demos and marketing material and all of that. So all in all, that was a lot of rambling, and you might have gotten where I'm coming to, you may have not, but let's connect all the dots and come to my conclusion about what I asked in the start. What is Vision Pro for, and what purpose does it fill? So my conclusion is that Apple Vision Pro is intentionally made this way to be an introduction to the potential of the world of, well, VR and AR, or more so, I guess, mixed reality. But Apple Vision Pro is definitely not a mass public product, but more so an introductory product. Like, I'm sure Apple's definitely going to build on this down the road, and eventually we'll get more refined versions, even cheaper versions, and eventually it is going to become a mass market product. But for now, it's not really going to be that. It's just going to be a product for enthusiasts or even developers, but not for everybody. Like, think of it this way. When the iPad came out in 2010, they sold 1 million units in 28 days. Now, when the iPad 2 came out in 2011, they sold 1 million units, the same amount, in just 2 days. That's 14 times faster. What changed between the iPad 1 and the iPad 2? Well, they made it lighter, they made it cheaper, the software and the hardware was more refined. They even got a camera on the iPad 2, which wasn't there on the iPad 1. They added a lot of new features and they made it cheaper. That is something that I would personally expect on the Apple Vision Pro 2. You're going to see a lot of more software and hardware refined, and maybe like some of the unnecessary stuff cut out, and that is something that's going to eventually trickle down to the mass public, something that actually makes more sense. And eventually in the future, we will get this Apple Vision Less Pro, I guess, that actually makes more sense for the average consumer and, well, I guess the mass public. And that is going to make more sense for Apple to actually invest more in compared to the Vision Pro, where they're only making 60,000 headsets at launch. So now that begs the question, when is Apple Vision SE, Apple Vision Lite, Apple Vision Less Pro, whatever you want to call it, when is that headset coming out? Well, based off of leaks, late 2025, early 2026, according to Mark Gurman at least. However, I do think there's going to be a checklist of stuff that you do have to expect before the Vision SE, let's call it, comes out. So first of all, as I just mentioned, you're going to have a lot more optimized apps that actually match the full potential for Apple Vision Pro for the average consumer to be like, wow, this is out of this world. So that's going to have to include gaming manufacturers, obviously, like Supercell and Roblox, but also entertainment manufacturers that I just mentioned, like Spotify, YouTube, Netflix. They all have to make their apps, like for example how Disney did, and that is something that they're going to have to work on, and Apple's definitely going to have to wait for. And another thing that they're going to have to wait for is, well, more hardware and software refinements. Like, there's definitely going to be a lot of bugs and glitches, but also maybe even stuff in the hardware. Like, this is still Apple's first headset, and that means they don't have any prior experience. Like, obviously they did probably have 5-7 years of testing this, but at the same time, that doesn't mean like the average consumer has tried it, and the average consumer tends to do a lot of stuff. And speaking of software and hardware, they're also going to have to add more features too, like especially in software. That's something to watch out for in WWDC this year and next year, where you're definitely going to expect a lot more new quirks and features, and also more useful features that are integrated into the system. And also, I guess, more Apple ecosystem features too, to integrate it into AirPods, iMacs, iPhones, iPads. You get the idea. Like, they're gonna have to integrate it into their ecosystem, but also make it like a standout product too. Now lastly, you're also gonna have to wait for stuff to get cheaper too. Like, for example, mini OLED screens in the Vision Pro, very expensive. However, after Apple starts making a ton of them and other manufacturers start to copy Apple, like HTC Vive or the Meta Quest guys, you are gonna start to see micro OLED screens start to get cheaper in the market. And that means, well, if Apple has less costs, that means the product is also going to be priced lower. But all in all, after you get all these hardware and software refinements, you get cheaper materials, and you get optimized apps for the Vision Pro, that is when you would probably be expecting a Vision SE or a Vision Pro 2 at probably, I hope, half the price. Because right now, obviously, it's super expensive, and I probably can see that timeline spanning about 2 years. So maybe a launch in 2025, late 2025, and shipping in early 2026, which makes total sense to me. So all in all, the Vision Pro, it's, well, an introductory headset, but also very expensive, but also gonna be the bar for the whole market. That's a lot for one product. Now, is it for everybody? Definitely not. However, is it gonna be a failure like AirPower or even discontinued like the HomePod? I don't think so. However, is it going to be paving the path for the future of VR and AR and mixed reality? Probably, yeah. But that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think I was pretty much spot on in this video, or do you have some other thoughts about Vision Pro? And are you going to be buying a Vision Pro? Let me know down in the comments below. And once again, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.